We are now live. Hi, Sasha.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you.
Awesome. I'm so excited to be back here for our Women Who Do series. I hope that everyone watching had a wonderful holiday weekend. Hopefully, a little bit of downtime. But we are so excited to continue this week discussing community and careers with these outstanding women who are making an impact in the world today. So, for those of you who might be tuning in for the very first time, the Women Who Do series is dedicated to highlighting inspiring conversations within these historical times. So, if this is your first time watching today, I'm Jessie Rubenstein and I'm Anne Klein's granddaughter. So, this series was really created to celebrate my grandmother's legacy. She was such a mover and shaker, and she empowered people everywhere. So during these difficult times, her message about strength and empowerment is just absolutely crucial. And this leads me to my exciting introduction of Sasha Bikoff. Sasha is an interior design extraordinaire. Sasha, thank you so much for being here today. My family, from a very young age, has instilled a passion in design. I'm so excited to be speaking with you and can't wait to hear more. I've been looking forward to this all week.
Thank you. I feel very honored to be here.
Oh, well, I feel honored to have you. um, so, Sasha, your eclectic style and your keen eye has made you one of the most sought after interior designers in the world. Your bold use of color, whimsical patterns, and your just inspiring motifs are kind of exactly the kind of revolutionary design qualities that my grandmother actually embodied as well. So it's really refreshing, and I definitely feel a close tie to your unique style.
Thank you.
I would love to get started and hear a little bit more about the motivation and inspiration behind your awesome designs.
Yeah, so I actually never studied interior design formally. I didn't go to design school. I have a background in art history and fine arts, and it was when I moved to Paris and went to college there that I really became in love with design. I lived in this area called Saint Germain where all these like famous antique dealers were, and I would go to the Marché aux Puces. And I really taught myself about design when I was living there. And I just like became fascinated with this functional art, with being able to live in spaces that kind of consumed us, that made us feel a certain type of way. And I when I decided to open up my firm after working in the art world for 4 years, I really approached design toward more with like an emotional aspect, meaning I understood that colors really connected people and made people feel a certain way. And designing spaces that reflect who people are and reflect people's passions and dreams and goals in life, and the places they love to travel to, um, rooms that don't just kind of look like, right out of a showroom or right out of a
Mm-hmm.
catalog, but really rooms that um, describe a likeness of who we are. And as a designer, that's my goal. And so while you can look at an interior and automatically say that's a Sasha Bikoff interior, none of my interiors look the same. I rarely use the same fabrics in rooms. I rarely use the same color because, everything I do is so unique to my client and so unique to that project. And for me, it's all about constantly finding inspiration everywhere I go, to come up with new ideas, revolutionary ideas. And I'm always striving to be different. I'm always striving to kind of be that designer that lives a little bit on the edge. And I am a little controversial, and I like that because that's what gets people talking. I mean, you either love what I do or you hate what I do, and I'm fine with that. So, and for all the women out there who want to be an interior designer, my advice to you is, this is obviously a really it's a hard industry. There's so many designers out there. It's super competitive, but if you believe in what you do, and if you come up with that, kind of method of your own style, if you really do something different than the rest of the crowd, you're going to stand out and you're going to succeed. So, I, especially during this time, I think that my products that I'm creating, especially now my interiors, I think that they're bringing joy and happiness and life to people's homes. And I am seeing a shift in design aesthetic where, I grew up in a very minimalistic, kind of all white, chrome, stainless steel like type of environment that I always felt was very institutionalized. We are living in a time where people are using their interiors and design as a form of self-expression. So we're seeing
Mhm.
color and whimsicality and just statement pieces, pieces that make people talk, and that's what I'm all about.
Totally. I think especially right now, like we could all use some color in our life. The last thing we want is just more darkness or,
Yeah,
color that just feel kind of flat. I think color just presents so much optimism, and that's something, especially right now, is just we all need it.
I think that, people are a lot of times in fear to make a commitment to certain types of design, certain colors, certain patterns, certain fabrics. And my advice to you is, if your favorite color is lavender, if lavender is the color that you're drawn to, and every time you see it, it makes you happy, then go and paint your room lavender, upholster your bed in lavender, find a lavender floral wallpaper, because at the end of the day, I promise that will make you happy. And sometimes the most worthwhile things are the things that we fear most. So it's just about like getting over that hump. And so that's what I do. I try and push my clients to the edge. I try and like get as most I try and have them get as most of me as possible. And so I'm always like striving for something different with them. And oftentimes they're really happy. I mean, this is the kind of business where there's also like a deep psychological factor in it, where I have to kind of figure out who they are. I like to look in my clients' closets. I like to see what their shoes look like. I like to see what their clothes look like. I like to see how they dress, to kind of figure out, how they would want their home to be. I mean, I've had clients say to me, if I could live in a Barbie dream house, I would. I've had clients say to me, I want my home to look like a combination between Boardwalk Empire and Game of Thrones. So, like, things like that are always really exciting for me.
And was there kind of like, you mentioned um, getting a lot of your designs from your time in Paris. Was there like a moment when you were there where it was kind of like a light bulb went off and you're like, aha, this is what I want to do? Or was it something that kind of just like happened naturally?
So when I was living in Paris, I lived in a famous interior designer's home, and she lived in the apartment next door, and then she would rent out this other apartment. And I walked into the apartment, and she's kind of known for her Indian textiles mixed with European, like 18th century and 19th century antiques. And I walked in and I felt like I was in this jewel box. The fabric walls matched the fabric headboard, matched the fabric lampshades, matched the drapery, matched the carpet, and I was like just consumed by this like really amazing aesthetic. And I was like, I want to live in a place like this forever. And that's kind of when it switched for me. But it actually really started at a young age. Like, just like you, my grandmother was my biggest inspiration in life. And we were like two peas in the pod. I guess it's skipped over a generation because I'm not like my mother. I'm exactly like my grandmother. And that's who I've always connected with. And when I was growing up, my grandmother, like, women didn't work at that time. She was a tastemaker, though. So her garden with her veggie garden and her flower garden and her tablescapes and the way that she would host parties and float around the room and her couture and her closet and her archives and trunks of clothes that she left for me, like the way she decorated her home. I mean, her homes were so glamorous. Like she had her whole entire bathroom was carpeted in a Persian silk rug. I mean, her closets were all mirrored. She had
Wow.
silk drapery that were puddled on the floors, and she was Persian, so there was like all these Persian rugs mixed with European antiques, and she was just like, it really resonated with me because she was like the utmost example of glamour, and like she had that really luxury style in all of her homes. And then it skipped over a generation because I grew up in the 90s, like in the height of minimalism. So my home wasn't like my grandparents' home. And I always felt more connected to like the warmth and the glamour and the luxury of that aesthetic. So I think it's always been with me at a young age, like being a creative and artistic person. But I think it took me a while to really bite the bullet and like have the confidence to start out on and start a business on your own, because it is scary.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I have a social media agency and I know that feeling all too well.
Yeah, another really competitive industry. So
Well, it sounds like our grandmothers would have been best friends.
sounds like
Yeah.
it.
Um, and, you know, I'd say during this time, I think this is kind of a personal question, and I'm hoping others out there have the same question as I do. But, this time has really forced us to spend so much more time at home. And, you can't help but look around and be like, oh, like this I'd want to fix, or like, I wish this was felt more like me. So, what are kind of some simple tips that you have that aren't crazy expensive, aren't a ton of construction, but we can kind of um, apply in our own homes to make them feel more personal?
So me and my friends have been beading. Like we've been making all these little bead bracelets, and we got the letters. So mine says snack because I'm a snack. But we've been making them for friends. So like anytime a friend is coming over or we go visit a friend, we bring a customized bracelet to them. And it actually feels really good because it's kind of like cathartic to bead bracelets. We've also been doing lanyard,
Mhm.
throwback to camp times. But my suggestion is to get arts and craftsy, get some beads, get some lanyard, start quilting, needlepoint, any of that stuff. And it actually feels really nice to gift people things during this time. And it's like such a fun surprise. I personally don't need 100 little bracelets myself. I made some for my dogs. I'm going to play tennis later. I'm going to give my little cousins and their dog a little bracelet thing. So I would suggest painting, getting colored pencils, watercolors, all that stuff is really good. Not only just like for our soul, but it also like keeps our mind busy and it keeps us in that creative space, and ideas come out from it. It's interesting because during this time, it's been really hard for me to read. And I've been talking to a lot of people, and a lot of other people are experiencing that because there's so much going on in the world. It's
Mhm.
hard to kind of like settle your mind and focus on a book. So
Yeah.
I've been, you know, I've been just doing a lot of drawing and painting and making bracelets, and that's my suggestion. And try and get out in nature as much as possible. I mean, that's the best remedy to anything. I mean, I take multiple walks a day, and I guess that's my advice, and exercise. So
Yeah, definitely. I
usual,
mean,
the
usually I'm in New York right now, but usually I'm home in LA, and on our walks I've even been like collecting branches that I see like palm leaves and putting them all over the house, and that's even
yeah,
such a
totally.
great difference.
It's actually been a great time because I also started hiking, and me and my friend, I'm in Amagansett right now, and I've like been coming out here my whole life, and I've never really explored the hiking trails. So we've been like driving to all these different hikes around and, hiking for 3 hours. And it's been really nice because I'm getting great landscaping ideas as well. So it's just
That's
keeping
awesome.
me inspired.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh, Got to use everything we have and, make sure it's at our fingertips and we're drawing inspiration from our surroundings at all times.
Yeah.
So we have some really awesome comments coming in. Sasha. Colette says you need to write a book. So
Oh.
put that on your radar. And Paige asks, your designs are so inspiring. Which color speaks to you the most and makes you the most happy?
So it's interesting because my favorite color palette is constantly evolving. I would say for years it was pink. It was probably more like a blush peachy pink. Then it went more towards like a nude pink. Then my favorite color was canary yellow, and it's been like that for a while. And now I'm really feeling like neon orange and like clementine and tangerine. So it's constantly changing and evolving, and I'm in this orange phase right now, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm kind of like, it feels like 90s RLX,
Love
like
that.
very water sports. And I'm like a surfer and paddleboarder, and I love to do water sports. So I guess that's where like lifesaver vibes a little bit.
Yes.
Mhm.
And has that kind of like changed over time? Like, also, does your color preference change based on the season?
My color preferences definitely changes on the season. It definitely changes according to where I am. Um, so it really, I'm inspired by when I look at things around me, I see them a different way. Like I could see this juniper tree outside my house right now, and to me it looks like legs on a chair. So, I'm definitely changing my color palette and my inspiration. Like I feel like in the fall, I'm gonna be really into like saffron and ochres,
Ooh.
like in more of a 1970s like opium den vibe. So I
Okay,
can see.
I need to connect with you offline for some inspiration for my wedding. So I'll give you a call later because
Yeah.
my Pinterest rabbit hole is kind of leading me nowhere. Well, Sasha, thank you so much for being here today. It's been really awesome to hear your story.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So we have to get back to Colette about that book you have upcoming. So, take out the typewriter. But to all of you guys out there watching, thank you so much for being here today. And we will see you next week for it is number 6. That is coming up. We will be speaking with the CEO of Timeless Skincare. Her name is Veronica Peterson. All right, guys. Thank you again for being here today, and we will see you next week.
Bye.